And we're going to get started. So earlier this year, I released my new book, From Invisible to Invincible, The Natural Menopause Revolution. So we're here to talk about menopause today. So if you jumped on the wrong webinar, if you're not here to talk about menopause, have a wonderful day. For the rest of you, I hope you've got yourself a drink or a glass of water. And look, to be honest, I have hours worth of content. I really had to cull it all down to go, right, what is the most important 45 minutes, 50 minutes worth of content that I can provide so that we also have a little bit of time at the end for questions. So let's talk menopause. But before we do, who am I? I'm not going to spend too much time here because I've got too much content to share. But I am Jennifer Harrington. I am the clinical director of Menopause Natural Solutions. I'm a naturopath, I'm a nutritionist, medical herbalist, meditation instructor, counselor, many hats on that I have. So I've been practicing for over 17 years, both here and overseas, and I've also been a lecturer. Menopause Natural Solutions is a telemedicine clinic. So all of our consults are by Skype or by Zoom. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are, we can help. What we're primarily looking at is natural solutions. So today we're going to go through a couple of lifestyle hacks. We're going to look at the role nutrition plays. We're going to have a look at supplements, potentially herbal medicine, anything that fits under that natural umbrella. We're not going to talk about pharmaceuticals today. I am a perimenopausal woman myself, so I'm going through the transition with you. So I have been symptomatic for about 5 years now, and it really started for me as night sweats and sleeping issues. I experienced anxiety for the first time in my life, which I'm really glad I got that under control. That was not a pleasant experience. And my headaches and migraines that I had in puberty returned. But luckily for me, they were one of the first symptoms that came back. So I knew what it was. I mean, I've experienced this before. So I jumped on top of that really quickly. And I'm very happy to say I haven't had any for a while. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also a Wonder Woman, and I want you to be a Wonder Woman too. So I'm going to ask you to start this first exercise with me. And this is a lifestyle hack. So it's not going to cost you anything. You don't need anybody to help you. And no one else can see you. So I'm going to get you to stand up. I'm just going to move this so you can see me. Come on, ladies, stand up. All right. So remember, this exercise is for you. So get involved. So we're standing up, legs apart. Oh, I almost forgot. I need to set my timer because for this to be effective, we need to do it for at least 2 minutes. All right. So we're standing up, legs apart, fists on your waist. Shoulders back, chest up, head up. So this is called the Wonder Woman pose. And researcher Amy Cuddy has a TED Talk on it. So you'll see in the chat box later on when you go back and have a look that I put the link into her TED Talk if you want to watch it. So she is a researcher that looked at power poses. And she's found that when you hold the Wonder Woman pose for at least 2 minutes, it reduces your stress response. How amazing is that? It also increases your testosterone levels. It reduces cortisol. So cortisol is involved with the stress response. It actually it releases glucose so that you have fuel to run away from that saber-toothed tiger that is chasing you. So better sugar regulation as well. But it also helps with enthusiasm and motivation. I don't know about you guys, there are some mornings I'm not as motivated as others, but it's so easy to just jump out of bed, do my Wonder Woman power pose and find some enthusiasm, find some motivation. It also helps with confidence. And like I said before, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can do it at home. You can do it in the shower. If you're about to step into an important meeting, you can go into a public toilet, lock the door. Nobody knows what you're doing behind that door. And so I'm just checking on how we are going for time. We've got 15 seconds left. Hold that pose, ladies, because I want you to see, for me, it makes a dramatic difference. I really feel the difference from before to after. and this doesn't cost you anything. So I hope you're also experiencing this opportunity. Ah, and there goes the alarm. All right. How are you feeling? I am going to get out of my presentation because I cannot see the chat box when I've got this up here. So we will get back so I can see my chat box. So ladies, who actually participated? And if you did participate, who feels any different? Anybody? Or you're too busy sitting down drinking your coffee? Or were you actually? All right. So okay, couple of I did do it. I actually feel stronger. Fantastic. And what I love about this is that you don't need anybody else. This is something that once I've shared it with you, you've got this knowledge for life. So on those bad days, it takes 2 minutes. So please remember this. This is the first of 2 lifestyle little hacks that we're going to go through today. So we really want to make this hour filled with content that you can take away and put into action. Okay, let's get back to the presentation. Okay. So if you do want to watch the TED Talk, I have put the link in the chat box. So just scroll back up to the top and you'll see the TED Talk link there. Don't watch it now. You can come back and look at that later. I found it on Thursday night. I'm typing out all of these and it distracted me. So I'm a bit more prepared tonight. So aren't you lucky? I've had my trial run on Thursday night and now this is the real good one. So you picked the right day. All right, let's have a quick chat about the female hormone life cycle. Obviously, when we're born, we have lower levels of reproductive hormones. We hit puberty and we start going through a transition. Our body starts producing hormones and we have a bit of a roller coaster experience. I've also already mentioned that I had a lot of migraines during this time. Some women have a lot of pain and discomfort, maybe experience anemia for the first time in their life. So puberty can be that bit of an up and down roller coaster. In Australia, the average age is about 11, can be earlier, can be later, but it's a transition. It's not a disease. And then we hit our fertile years, where hopefully it's a bit of a smoother ride for most of us. And we have about a 20 year plus kind of fertile year experience. And then we hit perimenopause. So perimenopause is just puberty in reverse. So going from a time of high reproductive hormones to a time of lower reproductive hormones. Again, not a disease, it's a transition. And what you can see from the graph is that it's your progesterone levels that start to drop first. So progesterone is produced by the act of ovulation. So when your ovary releases an egg, it produces a corpus luteum, which is the scar tissue from where the egg came out. And it's the corpus luteum that produces your progesterone. And progesterone is used to thicken and ripen the endometrium, which is ready for implantation for a pregnancy and also for maintenance of a pregnancy. So when we hit perimenopause, we stop regularly ovulating. We are still ovulating. It is possible to conceive in this time. So I tell my women, be very, very careful with contraception. I had a friend that conceived at 47 and unless that's what you want, please be very careful because eggs still can be released. It might just go from being 12 ovulations a year to maybe being 9 ovulations a year. And that may decrease as you get closer to menopause. But so just be mindful of that. And then it's your estrogen that starts to drop later on. When we hit menopause, menopause is defined as 12 months after your last menstrual period. It is not something that is diagnosed by blood test. It needs to be 12 months after your last period. And the amount of women that get 9 months through and think they're almost there and get another period, or 11 months through, this is unfortunately just part of their transition. But to get to menopause, 12 months afterwards, and then you hit from like I said, it's just one day in time, because the very next morning you wake up, you're in postmenopause, and you're in postmenopause for the rest of your life. Now, I want to go through a couple of ages with you because this excites me. Um, when we're looking at the graph, so if we put the fertile years at roughly 20 to 40, perimenopause generally starts 10 years before menopause. So the average age for menopause in Australia is 51. So if you're roughly early 40s, I was 38 when I started having some night sweats and issues. So we're all different, we're all unique. But yeah, if we say roughly 40, the average age of death in Australia is 83. You've got more than half of your life left. It's like we've got the reproductive years out of the way, no longer focusing on getting pregnant and looking after newborns. Okay, most of us still have kids at home. I have a teenager at home. You might have younger or older kids. You might not have any kids, but that time of your life is starting to end, and it's a rethink. It's a reshuffle. It's okay. My life is not about everyone else. I'm not looking after everyone else. This is my time. So I hope you're excited as I can't wait to be done and just go, right, the focus is me. Where do I want to travel? What do I want to do? Um, in an earlier, so I have a podcast, if you weren't aware, and in an earlier episode I spoke about dreaming and writing 100 and like your 100 dream list, and I do this exercise every couple of years, and it gets me so excited because you have greater than half of your life left, and for me, I want to make sure that there is quality in my years. um, I think there's going to be quantity. I don't have any serious illnesses, but I want to make sure that there is that quality of life. So looking after my health is my number one priority, in order to enjoy my later years. I want to, yeah, live a long and healthy, happy life where I get to achieve my goals, achieve my purpose and my passion. Anyway, enough about me. So yes, so perimenopause generally starts, could be around 40. Menopause average age is 51. The average age for death at the moment is 83, but with medical technology, that's constantly changing. Like, I actually think by the time I get to 83, the average age of death is probably going to be in the triple digits. So we could be here in like 110, 120, 130. Let's make sure those are quality years. All right. So for a lot of people, for a lot of practitioners, this is where the story ends. That it starts with menopause being a hormonal problem. That is the beginning, that is the end, that's all they address. Where my patients, I don't even test their hormones, because I know in this menopausal transition, they're going to be high one day, they're going to be low the next day, and this is normal for this time of their life. I found some work by a researcher called Dr. Sandra Thompson, and she says if menopausal symptoms were due solely to hormonal changes, then the menopausal experience would be more homogenous. And what she's actually saying, if hormones were the reasons we have symptoms, we would all have the same symptoms. Food for thought. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment my screen because I've got a poll that I would like you to do. And this poll is letting me know where you guys are in the journey. And if you're symptomatic, what symptoms are you experiencing? So let me just launch this poll. All right, guys, you've got a minute. If you can please fill that in for me. So I'm just answering some of the Q&A questions while I give you guys time to do that. Guys, I've just been asked a really good question, and that is, how long do the ups and downs last on average? And what we find is that perimenopause itself can be 10 years. And then you still can get symptoms post-menopause. And when I'm looking at this poll, I can see that 22% of you are in perimenopause with just a few symptoms. 33% of you are in the thick of it with extreme symptoms. And 44% of you, the vast majority of you, are post-menopause but still having symptoms. So we can see once we reach menopause, it doesn't mean your symptoms disappear. There can still be symptoms for, on average, 2 to 3 years post-menopause. But I have met some women who, unfortunately, in their 70s, 80s, and 90s are still symptomatic. And I'm going to go, as we go through the seminar, you'll see that I don't believe it's all about the hormones. I believe it's about other factors. And that's why these women haven't addressed the other factors. So they're still symptomatic later on. When we're looking at the symptoms that, sorry, I'll just end poll so I can show you guys the results, share results. So when we're looking at the symptoms, the ones, we have 2 symptoms that got 56%, and that is brain fog and memory and fatigue. But what I want you to take away from this is that you're all unique and individual. If it was lower hormones causing the symptoms, we should all be symptomatic and we should all have the same symptoms, but we don't. It's very, very different. And look, guys, I could only put 10 symptoms in the poll. A big one that I missed out was cardiovascular symptoms. The amount of women that will have palpitations or angina, racing heartbeat, this kind of thing. There are so many symptoms, but what I wanted you to see is that we're all very, very different. So I hope you found that interesting. Let's get back. Diane, yes, it is being recorded. I'm going to whack it up on my YouTube channel later on. Let's get back here. Okie dokie. Yes, so it's time to think outside of the box. That's why when you come to see me, I'm not telling you we need to get you on HRT, we need to get you on estrogen, we need to get you on progesterone, because I'm thinking outside of the box. I'm thinking what else is possible. And what I say is hormones load the gun. They make you more susceptible to issues at this point of time, but they don't pull the trigger, which is why some women breeze through. Surely, like I know myself, I know many women who have breezed through the transition and just went, my period stopped one day, no big deal. But I also know many women who have struggled through this transition, and my experience has been that it's been very different for these women. So something else is pulling the trigger that is producing the symptoms in them. It's just that the hormones are up in the air at the moment, which makes you more susceptible. So let's have a look at some common triggers. So the first one we're going to talk about is stress and adrenal health. So remember that Wonder Woman power pose you can do each morning? That is going to help to reduce your stress response. But what happens with the adrenal glands is that during your life, your adrenal glands are producing your stress hormones. So your adrenaline, your noradrenaline, your cortisol, etc. And what I found with women is that they have multifactorial chronic stress. Like it's not one thing that's going on in their life. Like they call us a sandwich generation because we may be looking after aging parents. We may still be looking after kids at home where we're stuck in the middle. Most of us are working and running a household. We've got so many balls up in the air that we're trying to juggle that it's multifactorial long-term stress. Therefore, our adrenal glands are already exhausted. And what we do at perimenopause is we go, our ovaries aren't working anymore. Let's give the job of producing our reproductive hormones to our adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands go, oh, yeah, sure, just chuck another ball in the air. So you can see that if stress is an issue, you're going to be more prone to menopausal symptoms at this stage of your life. So stress management tools are going to be very, very important. And I'm going to give you another lifestyle hack on this later on. What else can I say about this? This is the most common trigger that I see. And a lot of women tell me, yeah, I'm fine most of the time, but then something happens. Like another bill comes in the post, or I have another fight with a family member and it's all up again. The next common trigger we're going to talk about is liver function and general toxicity. Your liver, think of your liver as like your mainframe, your computer mainframe. It's balancing and looking after everything, and it needs to help you balance your hormones. And if your liver isn't functioning optimally, it's going to struggle to help you balance this out. And the bad news is that from the age of 40, we found that our liver function starts to reduce. So it's a good idea, if your GP hasn't checked your liver enzymes or performed a liver function test, that you ask for this, just to see, is my liver okay? Now, I'm not suggesting by any means that there's liver disease. It just might not be optimally functioning. And this is an area where we can support your liver. When I'm looking at general toxicity levels, okay, here's a good example. Lead. We are also the lead generation. Growing up, we would have had lead in our paint, lead-based paints. We would have had lead in the petrol. We would have been exposed to multiple sources. And when that comes into our body actually freaks out because lead's very toxic. So it shuns it into storage spaces to get it away so it's less likely to harm us. Now, using lead as our example, lead loves the bones. And the body goes, awesome, we stored it away in bones. We don't need to worry about that for a long time. We can get on with a million other jobs that the body's doing. But what happens as we age? Like, we hit peak bone mass at around 30. And then from then, like, we maintain that peak bone mass for a while, but then it starts to reduce. And I would say come 40 is really when it is starting to reduce. And what that means is it's releasing the previous stored toxins. So lead comes out again. And keep in mind that fatigue was one of the number one symptoms mentioned. I am just going to grab a book that I particularly love, Trace Nutrients and Other Essential Nutrients by Dr. Watts. And this is some of the signs of lead exposure. Fatigue, abdominal discomfort, dizziness, headaches, joint pain, poor coordination, memory impairment. These are also the symptoms of the menopausal transition. And if you're only ever checking your hormones, how like, for me, that just blows my mind that people don't look outside of the box, because it's quite obvious that toxicity can be elevated at this point in life, that the liver function goes down so it can't manage it all. So I quite often with my patients recommend a hair test. So it's a hair tissue mineral analysis, and that looks at your mineral levels, and it also looks at your toxicity. So it doesn't just do lead, it does aluminium, mercury, cadmium, and the rest of those guys. So keep that in mind. The other thing I haven't mentioned is when you've got your hormones, you also have hormone receptors, and the hormones need to link in to the receptors in order to have an effect. And if you're toxic, it can actually block these receptors, so the hormones can't. They can misshape the receptors, they can do all sorts of things so that the hormone can't bind into the receptor. And another common toxin that does this is xenoestrogens. So with one of the primary xenoestrogens is plastic. So if you've got cling wrap in your house, if you've got plastic Tupperware containers, if you're drinking out of water bottles, these are all sources of xenoestrogens. So think about, what your toxic level's like. And put it this way, nobody's clean. We all have some level. We've all been exposed to something because we all live in the same planet. And I wish I could say we lived in a beautiful, we do live in a beautiful planet, but unfortunately we've polluted it. So food for thought. Thyroid function. So the most common thyroid complaint is hypothyroidism or slow thyroid function. And signs and symptoms are fatigue, weight gain, memory issues, brain fog, that kind of thing, and mood disorders. Doesn't that also sound like perimenopause or the menopausal transition? So please make sure that you have checked your thyroid function, because I certainly don't want you on reproductive hormone replacement if you actually need thyroid hormone replacement. All right, next one moving along is digestive health. As we age, our digestive function reduces. Our ability to produce digestive enzymes and digestive acids reduce. And a lot of women find that they start developing new food sensitivities, that maybe with foods they could tolerate before, maybe they can't tolerate now. And if we're not digesting our food properly, we're not extracting nutrients in the same way that we would have done in the past. So nutritional status is really a key focus for me, because nothing, like if your fatigue is, I don't know, due to a B vitamin deficiency, it doesn't matter what I give you, nothing's going to fix it until I give you B vitamins. So it really is a cornerstone building block to good health. But when we get back to the receptors and the hormones, there are also cofactors, nutritional cofactors that support and encourage the binding of the hormones to the receptors so that it can have the desired effect. So keep that one in mind. And there's so many common triggers. So with the book, so I go through what's happening with you. And then the next section of the book is about the Invincible Principles. So the book was almost called It's Not About Your Hormones, but I changed my mind and called it From Invisible from Invisible to Invincible, because of these invincible strategies. So let's go through some of these. And I forgot to tell you, I'm actually going to be giving away 2 copies of the book today to women that play full out. So if you interact, if you write things in the chat box, if you ask me questions, you might be lucky. All right, so individual treatment plan. As we have already discussed, that not all women suffer, and the women that do have symptoms have different symptoms. So please don't go out there and buy one product that is useful for everybody, or one program that does the same thing, because there are no 2 women that need the same things. So you need an individual treatment plan. Step 2 is about nutritious foods. Yeah, food's your building block. Food is rather your medicine or your poison. But for me, there are so many different diets out there. I don't want to put you on one diet plan for everyone. I want you to go back to what Mother Nature provided you. So Mother Nature provided the most amazing foods, which I want you to be eating, versus the man in the white coat that produced frankenfood that really doesn't support you. What I'm looking for is food that doesn't contain a food label. So if I was to pick up a banana, there is no food label on the banana. But if I go down one of the aisles and pick up banana chips, there's a food label on it, because there are other ingredients. It's been processed, it's been manufactured. I hope that makes sense. The book also goes through phytoestrogens and their role in menopause, and we discuss drinks and food-based triggers. Here's one key difference. So I have a book and I have an interactive book. So interactive books are fairly new, so you may not have come across one before. So the problem is when you print a physical book, that's it. Like what you put there is there for life. You can't change it. When you do an interactive book, I can add things. So my interactive book's got videos, it has handouts. So here we talk about foods. In the interactive, I talk about meal plans and recipes. So the different things that I can add, and I can continually add to that in the future, where I can't make any changes to this. It's printed, that's it, it's done. So hopefully that makes sense. So then we go through vitamins and minerals. And I hummed and hawed over this for so long because I don't want to encourage self-prescription. The amount of women going through supermarkets and just grabbing whatever off the shelf, putting it in their trolley and keep going, you might not realize that although they're vitamins and minerals, they still interact. There's still cautions, there's still contraindications that you need to take into account. When we're looking at women going through the menopausal transition, most of you are potentially already on medications for something else. So we need to consider, does that medication increase the need for a nutrient, or does that medication contraindicate the use of a nutrient? So there is some basic information in the book, but generally it's better to speak to a practitioner about that. I've really put that chapter in as a conversation starter. So, for example, you are having nerve issues. If you're having tingling, thinking in your fingers, tingle. I can't speak this morning. Fingers, toes, that kind of thing. It can be a B12 issue. So if you're talking to your doctor, you can ask them, I've got this. I've read in here it can be B12. Have we tested it? If we haven't tested it, can we please test it? And then you've got a better idea of the dose that you need. So yes, but I just grab an example. So what I've got in here is I've got the vitamin, I've got what some of the signs of deficiency are, what I would use it for, the dangers, the medical interactions, and I've got some fun facts in there too, so a bit of fun. See, I don't like to be doom and gloom. That's not me at all. I always see the positive. There's always a silver lining. So, and some fun facts to make you smile as you're going through it all. Next section is investigation. Now, I'm a big fan of investigations. When I'm having a consult with a woman, I think I nail it about 90% of the time. But sometimes we get a curveball, and sometimes the test results actually highlight or prove that we are going down the right track. And sometimes they can help me change doses so that we get it right and we get it right faster. In the book, I talk about blood investigations, I talk about hair investigations, I talk about urine investigations, and I talk about swabs, so saliva and things like that. If you are more interested, by the way, with the podcast and with my website, there's quite a lot of articles and content that is already on there, but reach out. I do, being a telemedicine business, I can help women from anywhere. So don't feel like you need to live in my local area to come and see me. I can help anyone anywhere. Well, no, not anyone, only women, menopausal women. All right, moving along, we're going to talk about non-toxic environments. So we've already spoken a little bit about lead, and we've already spoken about, no, we haven't. So the role that mold plays, xenoestrogens was the other thing we spoke about. I found out during the week that there is actually a environmental summit next week, which is for free. So I have put in the chat box the link to the summit if you're interested. But most women don't even consider the role that their environment plays in their health. And especially now that we are self-isolating and spending so much more time at home than we used to, we really do need to think about what plays a role in making this a healthy home. So I have plenty of plants in my house because plants help to absorb radiation. So it's little things like that that can help make your home that little bit more healthier. So definitely check out that chapter if that's a new thought for you, or if you want more information, then consider the summit that is coming up soon. C is for contribution. There is a study called the Berlin study. And in the Berlin study, they have a look at women of grandparents' age. So it's whether you're looking after your grandkids or whether you're looking after grandkids that aren't your grandkids. So it's just about finding women that are ready to contribute. And they found that these women lived longer lives, on average by 5 years, because they had a purpose. They had a reason to get out of bed, and that was to look after their grandkids. But there's so many reasons to get out of bed, and I find that having something to contribute to feel useful, and that I think is very, 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 very well, it changes in the quality of your life and your quantity of life, and it makes a world of a difference to the people that you're contributing to. So win all round. I is for intuition. Now, as we reach this transitional time in our life, we move away from the analytical side of our brain and we move towards the creative side of our brain. And many women pick up old hobbies. They might start knitting, they might start painting or drawing, photography, any sort of creative outlook. And it's also a time when your intuition heightens. So you might intuitively know something's not quite right in my body, but nobody's really listening to me. So guys, if that's what you're feeling, keep looking, keep searching, reach out. But the best way to heighten your intuition is through meditation and breath. So then we move on to the next part, which is breath. And this is the second lifestyle hack I'm going to talk to you about. I have a YouTube channel, and this is already videoed and filmed, and the link to that video is in the chat box, and it's called Paced Respiration. So in the clinical trial, the vast majority of women had reduced frequency and reduced intensity of hot flushes. So for the women out there having hot flushes, who doesn't want reduced intensity and reduced frequency? And it's not popping a pill, it's not paying any money. It is a simple exercise that you can do at home. And it's simply about counting to 5 as you breathe in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then counting to 5 as you breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Doing that for 15 minutes a day, twice daily, and you get a reduction in your hot flushes. This is because the stress response is such a common trigger for your hot flushes. If we can find a way to reduce your stress response, we can reduce it. And this is just showing it's more than 50% of women have this as a trigger. The other thing that is happening is we have a thing called a thermonutrizone. And when you're inside of here, this is when you're at a comfortable temperature. When you go up, that's when you feel heat. That's when you might feel sweaty. And things that reduce the thermonutrizone make you flushier and hot faster. Things that increase the thermonutrizone take you further away from feeling hot. This is an internal sensation of heat. So what brings it in is a stress hormone called noradrenaline. What brings it out is serotonin. So anything that's stressful makes you more likely to flush. Anything that increases serotonin, like your stress management techniques, this reduces the sensation of internal heat. So I hope you remember that one. Take that one on board. Give it a try. Then we move down to love your liver and detox. Now we spoke about liver function earlier on as being one of the key triggers for hot flushes. And the final section is exercise and other lifestyle factors. So with exercise, it's ideally that you do it regularly. So hopefully it's something that is fun and enjoyable. It could be walking, it could be jogging, it could be swimming, it could be hiking out in nature, it could be doing a class. Maybe you like to do some yoga, maybe you like to do boxing. It's whatever is fun for you so that you want to do it. And with the research, they look at women that aren't used to exercising, initiating a regular exercise routine may sometimes trigger some initial hot flushes as they get used to the regularity of exercise. But the long-term research is that the more that you exercise, the less your hot flushes are, because exercise is also a key stress management tool. So I hope you're exercising. If you're not exercising, start with something. It's a beautiful day today in Sydney. Get outside, go for a walk. But the one good thing I think that's happened out of COVID-19 is the amount of people I see outside walking. It's fantastic. Get out there, sunshine, fresh air, exercise. With the other lifestyle factors we look at, smoking. Hopefully none of you are smokers, but smoking increases, like it makes you start the transition earlier, makes the transition longer and more intense. So if you needed a reason to quit smoking, hopefully that's it. Hopefully none of you are smokers out there today. The other lifestyle factor in that section is sleep, because I know that not many of you are sleeping out there, and it's something that we need for health, for happiness. The next chapter in the book is remaining symptoms. So I ask people to start at the beginning with the invincible strategies. And then we look at, okay, if we've done that, maybe you've got a 50% reduction in your hot flushes, but maybe they're still lingering. These are the next steps in all the symptoms related to menopause. And the final section is on headspace, so anxiety, depression, stress that we can go through. So the book, From Invisible to Invincible, is $30. But at the moment, I'm doing free postage and handling. So no matter where you live in the world, I'm probably going to regret that later on when I see all the international book sales. But that's the case. And what I'm also doing is free access to the interactive version of the book. So there's normally an add-on price for the interactive, but I'm chucking that in as well as part of the Natural Medicine Week specials. Also with the Natural Medicine Week offers, I'm doing buy 2 consultations and get the 3rd one for free. Plus I'll chuck in a bonus copy, and that's valued at $480. But until midnight on Sunday, it's only $300. So that's $180 savings. And we have time for questions. So I am going to stop sharing because I could see that there's lots of comments in the chat box and questions. So let's start with the chat box. The link to the Environment Summit. So if you scroll to the top of the chat box, hopefully you guys can see that I added some links in this morning before we got started. Hopefully they came through. And it's the second last one, the Healthy Home Summit, which is healthyhabitstraining.com. Can you just confirm that you guys can see that, or because I did it before the podcast started, is it not there? Can someone let me know, please? Can't see the links. All right, let's see if I can copy and paste this. All right. See, I try to be proactive. I try and do stuff before we get started. Didn't work. All right, I've copied that. Let me see if I can paste it. Let me see if that works. No, that doesn't work. All right, so what I'm going to do instead, I don't understand why it's not working. Oh, actually, it might have worked. There we go. So we've got the link there to the TED Talk that I discussed early on. We've got the Healthy Home Summit there and also the link to the podcast. So that is the Apple podcast. If you have Android, it's on Spotify, not Spotify. It is on one of the Android podcast places as well. So Q&A, I can see that we've got quite a few over here. Would toxicity include food additives, pollution? Absolutely. Can I retype the name of the book? Deborah, is this the book you were after? Sorry, I've got my fingers in the way. Do you want to screen capture that or quickly type that down? Any suggestions to the best way to approach GP about investigations and tests? Oh, that is an interesting one. I find that a lot of the time if you go in and say, well, my naturopath said to get this, they are going to say, no, this at all. I would more go in and say, look, I'm whatever age you are, I would like to have my 100K service. Can I please have a thorough investigation and just maybe put some suggestions in there? Can you have a look? I'm really interested in seeing what my thyroid function's doing, what my liver function's doing. If you have certain conditions that run in your family, that could be an added push to being, okay, thyroid disease runs in my family. Can you please make sure we do an extensive thyroid panel because my auntie got it at this age or whatever happened. Just to, a lot of the times with GPs and insurance, they need to justify a reason for doing the test. And the other thing to be mindful of is that you can always pay privately for your tests. So if there's something that you really want to do and the doctor's not open to doing it, pay for it. Like, this is your health. Like, what, I can't think of a greater investment than in yourself and in your own health. All right. Sex drive and dryness. Yes, actually, Deborah, my very last podcast was all about vaginal health in the menopausal transition. So a good take home for you, yeah, I quite often recommend vitamin E Pessaries. Vitamin E is one of the key nutrients to help restore mucous membrane function, and those are available on the retail market. What I do with my patients, though, is depending on what's going on, if there's also itch, if there's redness, if there's any increased risk of infections, then I actually use a compounding pharmacist and I get pessaries formulated specifically for them. And that works really, really well. It just depends on where you're at and what you want to do. And look, with sex drive, if sex is uncomfortable, if there's a lot of dryness, if there's a lot of pain, I'm sorry, I don't want sex to be painful. So sometimes just by increasing that lubrication, you're more likely to want to have sex again. But yeah, I always find that communication is also a really good. There's if anyone listens to the podcast Sex with Emily, one of her key sayings is communication is the best lubrication. So talk to your partner. Why might you get night sweats but not hot flushes? I would say one of the key reasons for being more prone to night sweats and not hot flushes is stress. So Taryn, see if that rings true for you. I know that was the case with me. I never got hot flushes, only got night sweats, but it was a particularly stressful time at that point in my life. And it's a key sign that your adrenals aren't optimally functioning. So have a look at some of the stress management strategies that we spoke about today. Other stress management techniques are, so we've just spoke about exercise and breathing and meditation. We can also look into, when you can, start getting massages again, like that skin to skin touch is really therapeutic. So it might be massages, it's whatever feels nice to you. Deborah asked, how do I find this? Can you just let me know what you were referring to? And Sharon has added a comment in the chat box about Bioceuticals Alpha EFA product. Alpha EFA is actually my go-to oil product for this stage of life because it contains omega-7 and there are very few sources of omega-7. Most of us have heard of omega-3 or omega-6 or omega-9, but omega-7 is a key nutrient for mucous membranes. So I do use it a lot, but guys, you need to, if you are using it, it's a high dose product, but I don't want to say I've had 100% success so far, but everyone I've put on has loved it. So nothing is for everybody. So I'm sure there'll be one of you out there that tries it. It doesn't do anything for, but generally it's a good thing. So thanks for bringing that up, Sharon. All right. So guys, I was going to give away 2 copies of my book, and Deborah, you have asked me quite a few questions. So Deborah, if you can email me, jennifer@menopausenaturalsolutions.com, so I know your address, so I know where to send it to, that would be really, really good. And Diane Kitson, you've also asked quite a few questions. So if you can also email me, I better write down. Jennifer@menopausenaturalsolutions.com. I will also pop a copy in the post for you. Well, ladies, we've still got 10 minutes. I raced through some of that content. So I'm happy to sit here if you have any further questions for me. I've just had a massage therapist put a comment in, and yes, skin to skin contact is very, very important. So if you're giving all the time, maybe it's time to start receiving. But I know it's a bit hard with COVID, that maybe self-massage is a good place to start. Constipation, yes, constipation it's an issue because your digestive function starts to reduce and you're not producing enough digestive fire. So your production of digestive acids and your production of digestive enzymes starts to reduce. So keep that in mind. And ways to increase your digestive fire are things like apple cider vinegar, having freshly squeezed lemon juice in water before a meal. It can be supplementing with digestive acids. It can be supplementing with digestive enzymes, but it's also worth looking at what you're eating. Are you drinking enough water? Are you eating enough fiber? That's where I would start with that. So massage is being offered in New South Wales now. Awesome. Essential oils are also useful. Yes, there is an essential oil handout on my website. So, and that's also in the interactive version of the book. It's a handout on different aromatherapies you can use for different menopausal symptoms. Are there any particular vegetables to help reduce symptoms? Nothing that springs to mind, Susan. I want you eating vegetables. It's more, what I start thinking of is more your phytonutrients. And phytonutrients are in your nuts, your seeds, your legumes. They are in some vegetables. The fact that you're eating vegetables is awesome. I would maybe stick to more above ground vegetables. As a general rule, your above ground vegetables, things like your broccoli, your cauliflower, your beans, anything that grows above the ground is lower in sugars. Or your below the ground vegetables are storehouses of sugars for that particular plant. So you're going to get higher sugar content in those foods. So I don't, like, you don't need to avoid them, but you want to make sure the vast majority of foods on your plate are from above ground sources. Okay. Repeat my email address. Jennifer@menopause. Actually, I'll write it here. So I've got my laptop on a stand. I can see that my typing is moving the screen. All right, what is the deal with tofu and menopausal symptoms? All right, guys, I am not a fan of any soy products, because soy products are genetically modified. Vast majority, I think it's 98% of all soy products on the market are genetically modified. I think we are guinea pigs. We don't know what the long-term ramifications of genetic foods are, and I don't want to be a guinea pig. So I actually avoid all soy. I avoid tofu. I know a lot of people will say the opposite, that, it's been what Asian cultures have eaten for generations and it's helped them, but what they've been eating for generations is actually not genetically modified. So I hope that helps, Diane. I'm sending you a copy of the book and it's in there anyway. All right. Guys, I thank you so much for coming today. I hope that you have taken something away from today, and reach out to me if you have any further questions or queries. Otherwise, enjoy your weekend, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.